Usually when we talk about building a fulfilling life, it sounds a bit like an inspirational poster.
Oh, yeah, like a person standing on a mountain peak at sunrise.
Right, with some vague sweeping quote about chasing your dreams or whatever. And it feels aspirational, sure, but also incredibly unhelpful when you're just trying to get through a really stressful Tuesday.
Yeah, those posters don't exactly come with the instructions for real life.
Exactly. So that is why today, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026, we are tearing down the inspirational posters and we are pulling out a schematic.
I love that. A real blueprint.
Yeah, we are extracting a highly precise, almost mechanical blueprint for an abundant life. It's from a really fascinating essay by Schwiffing, and the translation was edited by Kinyunyu. It's titled The Three Essential Elements of a Fulfilling Life.
And it is such a rich text to explore.
It really is. Our mission for you today is to decode this exact framework and, crucially, discover why trying to execute this perfect life, without boundaries, might actually be the very thing that ruins it. Okay, let's unpack this.
The premise we're looking at is it's elegantly simple on the surface, but it's deeply structural once you actually get into the mechanics. The framework argues that a complete burnout-proof life rests on three foundational pillars.
Right, which are health, wealth, and freedom.
Exactly. But the way these concepts are broken down into 9 interconnected subsystems, it completely revolutionizes how we typically diagnose our own unhappiness.
Because before you can even begin to chase your grand ideals, or navigate the world, you need a functional vessel. The text labels health as life's first blessing.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Just as a damaged ship can't sail far, a frail mind and body simply cannot endure life's emotional highs and lows. You need the actual physical and psychological capacity to process the richness of life.
Right, you need the hardware to run the software.
Yes. And the most brilliant part of this framework is the analogy it uses. It treats human well-being like a car.
It strips away all the mystical ambiguity we usually attach to, wellness.
Yep.
It's very grounded.
Totally. So health is divided into 3 distinct mechanical parts: physical, mental, and spiritual.
And for physical health, that's your transmission. It's your load-bearing structures, the lubrication, and the cooling systems.
The literal machinery.
Exactly. The machinery. If you don't sleep, your cooling system fails.
Yeah.
Your engine overheats, and the vehicle breaks down on the side of the road. You maintain this physical machinery through basic self-care.
Which brings us to mental health. And this is where the mechanics get really highly specific. Mental health is the car's ignition system.
The spark.
Right. It's the ability to convert heat into power or linear motion into rotation. And the text says you maintain it through the teachings of wisdom and virtue.
And that detail about converting heat into power, that is the core mechanism of resilience here. Mental health in this blueprint isn't just a state of feeling happy or, being stress-free.
No, it's an active process.
Yeah, it's a functional engine component. It's your awareness, your cognitive framing, your ability to take the raw, chaotic input of the world.
The friction.
Right? The friction, the heat, the stress, and convert it into forward momentum. If your ignition timing is off or if you lack wisdom, you just can't process that friction.
The car won't start no matter how pristine the physical engine looks.
Exactly.
But wait, I actually want to push back on the third element here: spiritual health.
Okay, let's hear it.
The framework calls spiritual health the inner vitality. But if mental health is the ignition and physical health is the engine block, isn't spiritual health the driver? Isn't it the consciousness making the decisions behind the wheel?
That's a really common assumption. But what's fascinating here is that the framework makes a very deliberate distinction to prevent that exact thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah, spiritual health is not the driver. It is the fuel source itself, which is maintained through sound beliefs.
The fuel source. Wow, okay.
Right, because without a steady supply of the right fuel, the car is merely a lifeless assembly of parts. You can have a flawlessly maintained physical engine and a lightning-fast mental ignition, but without spiritual fuel.
Without sound beliefs.
Exactly. Without those beliefs grounding you, you have no inner vitality. The spark plug fires, but there's nothing in the chamber to ignite.
That makes so much sense. And treating these 3 elements as interconnected mechanical systems, it entirely demystifies the modern epidemic of burnout.
It really does. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Yeah, if you're feeling stuck, you don't just throw up your hands in defeat, you run a diagnostic. Are you physically exhausted and irritable? Well, your cooling system is shot. Go prioritize physical self-care.
Drink some water, get some sleep.
Right. Are you paralyzed by stress, unable to process the friction of your daily tasks? Your ignition is faulty. You need mental health, wisdom, and cognitive reframing.
And if you're just feeling fundamentally empty or purposeless even when things are going well,
You're out of gas. You need to replenish your spiritual fuel with sound beliefs.
it turns an overwhelming emotional crisis into an actionable checklist.
Mm.
You diagnose the specific subsystem that is failing.
I love that.
But let's say you fix the car. The engine purrs, the fuel is topped up, the ignition catches perfectly. You drive out of the driveway and immediately hit a toll booth you can't pay for.
Oh, no.
Or you realize you have no map. A working vehicle is completely useless if you don't have the resources to sustain the journey. And that is where we have to look at the second necessity, which is wealth.
And the blueprint does not shy away from harsh realities here. It plainly states that a life in poverty is filled with sorrow, making wealth the absolute necessary second blessing.
It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah, but it radically redefines wealth. It moves way beyond just your bank account. It splits wealth into 3 tiers: material, mental, and soulful.
So material wealth is the baseline. The framework defines it simply as freedom from concerns about food, clothing, shelter, and transportation.
The basics.
Right. It is the literal toll money, the gas budget, and the roadside motels you need to keep driving. Without it, survival just consumes all your energy.
And once that baseline is met, the framework introduces mental wealth. This is having knowledge, meaningful relationships, and a place for one's spirit to rest, which it calls a spiritual home.
That's a beautiful term.
It is. If material wealth pays for the journey, mental wealth gives you the map, the navigational skills, and the co-pilots sitting in the passenger seat with you.
I like that analogy.
Thanks. But then we hit soulful wealth, and when I was reading this, I tried to map it onto our journey analogy.
Okay, let's see how it fits.
So if material wealth is the toll money, and mental wealth is the map, soulful wealth is having a beautiful house to invite your friends over to. Wait, no. Mental wealth is having the beautiful house to invite your friends over to. Soulful wealth is having the optimism and inner drive that actually gives you a reason to get out of bed in that house.
Yes, that perfectly captures the mechanism at play. Soulful wealth is defined as ideals, faith, optimism, inner drive, and the expansive freedom for one's soul to soar.
Expansive freedom. Wow.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, this framework proves something we intuitively sense, but often struggle to quantify. Without soulful wealth, the journey is agonizing.
Because you don't care where you're going.
Exactly. You can be a billionaire, you can have unlimited toll money and a massive library of mental maps, but if you lack ideals and optimism, you are just sitting in a parked Ferrari with nowhere you actually want to go. You are deeply, fundamentally impoverished.
And society constantly pressures us to trade one for the other.
All the time.
We are conditioned to sacrifice our mental wealth, like our relationships and our spiritual homes, just to stockpile more material wealth than we could ever possibly use for basic necessities.
It's the ultimate trap.
Right. We hoard toll money while kicking our co-pilots out of the car. The framework suggests this leaves life entirely fragmented. Well, let's follow that logic to the next roadblock. You have a fully fueled, well-maintained vehicle. You have the toll money, the map, and the burning desire to reach your destination.
So I'm perfect so far.
You put the car in drive, and you realize you are locked inside a parking garage. The gates won't open. You aren't allowed to go where you want.
Ah, right.
Which brings us to the third blessing. Freedom.
And the phrasing here is stark and absolute. The text says, "A life without freedom resembles that of a prisoner." Without it, you are no longer the protagonist of your journey. You become an extension, a mere tool for someone else's agenda.
Yeah, a tool. That's a chilling thought. So, to break out of that prison, the blueprint outlines 3 types of freedom we must secure. First is personal freedom, the literal right and physical space to move uninhibited.
Right. Because if you are physically confined or unsafe, your physical health breaks down.
Exactly. Next is intellectual freedom. This is the right to pursue knowledge, to form your own connections, to speak freely, and to choose your beliefs. It's the right to choose your own route on the mat, rather than being forced onto some state-mandated highway.
Because without intellectual freedom, the mind becomes stagnant. You lose the ability to maintain the wisdom required for your mental ignition system. Every single part of this framework relies on the others.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
The final requirement is spiritual freedom. The framework defines this as liberation from restrictive doctrines or theories, allowing the imagination to roam boundlessly and the soul to be fearless.
The ultimate liberation.
Well, and I have to ask, isn't complete, boundless spiritual freedom just chaos? Like, if we aren't bound by any doctrines or theories, don't we just lose our grounding entirely and drive right off a cliff?
That is probably the most common fear associated with true autonomy. We think freedom equals chaos. But the framework does not equate spiritual freedom with destructive anarchy.
Okay, then how does it work?
The mechanism of spiritual freedom is specifically designed to allow the spirit to create beauty as it desires.
Create beauty.
Yes, it is not chaos. It is the ultimate permission to be authentic. It's liberation from the rigid boxes that others try to force your soul into. You're no longer operating out of a fear of breaking some doctrinal rule. You are operating out of a desire to create a beautiful, genuine existence.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you have permission to drive off the paved highway to discover a new landscape.
Creating beauty as it desires. That really changes the whole perspective. So we have this master formula, 9 subsystems in total. Physical, mental, spiritual health. Material, mental, soulful wealth. Personal, intellectual, spiritual freedom.
It is an incredibly robust, logical blueprint.
It is. But if the formula is just health plus wealth plus freedom, why is the drive still so incredibly frustrating for all of us?
Well, because the blueprint does not exist in a vacuum. It exists in reality. And reality is full of obstacles that we cannot outdrive, outbuy, or outthink.
And this part of the framework is deeply validating. It explicitly lists exactly 18 aspects of life that are entirely beyond our control.
The 18 uncontrollables.
Right. Some of them are just the domain of nature, like the wind or the inevitability of rain. You can't yell at a cloud to stop raining on your car. But then there's this highly specific, almost surreal detail about societal systems. We can't control things because, and I quote, others want soup.
Ah, yes, the soup metaphor. It sounds absurd until you map it onto human behavior.
I actually laughed when I read that. I immediately pictured being held captive to everyone else's culinary demands. Like, if society demands soup, we just have to pull over and serve it.
Yeah, it's a brilliantly subtle way to describe the arbitrary, often nonsensical demands of human institutions. Soup, in this context, represents the whims of others and the bureaucratic detours we're forced to navigate.
Oh, true.
You're at your job, you have your mental ignition firing, you are ready to do innovative, meaningful work, but management demands you spend 3 days filling out redundant compliance forms.
The institution wants soup.
Exactly. The institution wants soup. You can't control the weather, and you cannot control the arbitrary demands of the societal systems you live in. You are just forced into the detour.
So if we can't control the rain and we can't avoid the soup, how do we keep the journey from becoming a miserable slog?
This is where the framework introduces its most powerful psychological tool, the mechanism of inverse thinking. Since we can't control these external forces, adjusting our internal cognitive framing is the only way to transform obstacles into opportunities.
Like reframing the situation.
Yes, it is the literal process of turning bitterness into sweetness.
Let's ground that a bit. How does inverse thinking actually operate when you are stuck in the mud?
The strategy is an intentional toggle switch. When the road is smooth and the truth of your day bring you joy, you embrace conventional thinking. You enjoy the ride.
Makes sense.
But when you hit a wall, when you're forced to deal with the metaphorical soup that causes you pain or frustration, you must flip the switch to unconventional or reverse thinking.
Okay, let's say you're building a massive project at work. You've poured your soulful wealth into it. Suddenly, upper management pivots the entire company strategy and cancels your project. The soup just got dumped right in your lap.
Right, a classic corporate nightmare.
Conventional thinking says, I am a victim. I just wasted 6 months of my life. This system is broken.
And if you stay in that conventional mindset during a crisis, your mental ignition floods, your spiritual fuel burns out, and your car stalls. Inverse thinking radically shifts your relationship to the event.
So what's the inverse thought there?
The inverse thought is, I just got paid for 6 months to learn a massive new skill set on the company's dime. Now I have the bandwidth to observe the fallout of this pivot without being the one responsible for its failure.
Wow.
You haven't changed the reality of the canceled project. You've changed your relationship to it.
You take the raw heat and friction of that massive frustration, and you use your mental ignition system to convert it into forward momentum. The entire framework locks together. Mental health protects your spiritual fuel from being drained by the 18 uncontrollables.
It's an impenetrable defense system. You dodge the rain when you can, you serve the soup when you must, and you use inverse thinking to extract value from every detour.
So what does this all mean for our daily execution? We maintain the 9 subsystems, we optimize our health, accumulate our wealth, guard our freedom, and relentlessly pursue this blueprint to the absolute maximum.
Well, not quite.
Right, because right at the very end of the framework, there is a massive structural warning that completely upends that instinct.
It was the ultimate caveat. It forces us to realize that the blueprint itself can become a trap if misapplied.
The warning states that extremes meet and excess leads to reversal. It argues that every single pursuit within this framework must have its limits. But I have to challenge this premise. How can you possibly be too healthy? Can you have too much soulful wealth or be too free?
This raises an important question about the nature of human drive. And the answer is yes. The framework explicitly warns that pursuing these 3 blessings without moderation mutates them from a blessing into a form of ailment.
Limitless pursuit is a disease. By what mechanism?
Look at our vehicle analogy. What happens if you pour too much fuel into the tank, trying to maximize your spiritual reserves?
It overflows.
Right. It overflows, pools on the ground, and becomes a catastrophic fire hazard. What happens if you push a perfectly tuned engine to its absolute maximum capacity relentlessly, chasing ultimate physical performance?
The engine runs too hot.
The engine runs too hot, the cooling system fails to keep up, and the block explodes. Boundaries are the only thing that keeps these elements functioning as blessings.
Oh, that makes terrifying sense. If you pursue physical health to the extreme, it stops being wellness and becomes an ailment, like orthorexia.
Yes, exactly.
You become so paralyzed by eating the perfect diet and maintaining the perfect physical routine that you isolate yourself. Your pursuit of the ultimate physical engine destroys your mental wealth, your relationships, and your personal freedom, because you can never eat at a restaurant or travel.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Or consider the pursuit of absolute, uninhibited personal freedom.
Okay.
If you push that to the extreme, refusing to be tied down by any obligations or commitments, you sever all your meaningful relationships. You end up entirely isolated, destroying your mental and soulful wealth in the process of chasing total autonomy.
Because you've pushed everyone away.
Right. The reckless pursuit of the perfect life, if left unchecked by moderation, annihilates the very fulfillment it seeks to build. Excess leads to reversal.
The blueprint isn't a mandate to acquire as much as possible. It is an instruction manual for dynamic balance. It's about tuning the car, monitoring the gauges, and knowing when to ease off the accelerator.
It is a profound difference between a master mechanic and a reckless driver.
To synthesize this incredible schematic for you, the listener,
Yeah.
a truly fulfilling life is not a vague feeling waiting for you on a mountaintop. It requires the diligent mechanical maintenance of 9 specific subsystems.
All 9.
Yeah, you must tune your health, the physical chassis, the mental ignition, and the spiritual fuel. You must secure your wealth, the material provisions, the mental map and co-pilots, and that soulful inner drive to see the destination.
And you must protect your freedom.
Right. The physical space to drive, the intellectual curiosity to choose the route, and the spiritual liberation to off-road and create beauty.
And when the 18 unmanageable aspects of life, the storms and the societal soup, inevitably block your path, you do not break down.
Yeah.
You deploy inverse thinking. You change your relationship to the obstacle, turning the friction of the detour into the very momentum that carries you forward.
So as you navigate your own journey today, I challenge you to run a diagnostic on your personal blueprint. Which of your subsystems is currently sputtering on the side of the road? Are you flush with spiritual fuel, but completely lacking the mental ignition and wisdom to start the engine?
Or perhaps more dangerously, look at that final warning.
Yes. Which system are you currently redlining? What are you obsessing over right now, to the point that your pursuit is actually becoming an ailment? Are you hoarding so much material toll money that you've kicked all your co-pilots out of the car?
It leaves us with a lingering, paradoxical thought to carry forward.
What's that?
If this framework is correct, if the relentless, unbounded pursuit of absolute freedom and limitless wealth inevitably mutates into a sickness, then perhaps a truly abundant life is not defined by what we manage to acquire.
Okay.
Perhaps it is ultimately defined by the intentional boundaries we choose to place around our own desires. Does true, lasting freedom actually require self-imposed restriction?
Wow. A blueprint is essentially just a collection of lines on a page. But it is those exact restrictive lines that allow the house to stand up or the car to run. You cannot just build outward forever without the whole structure collapsing under its own weight.
Beautifully said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of a fulfilling life. We hope this schematic gives you the tools to tune your own engine. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning the route, and maybe you don't rage too hard the next time the world forces you to pull over and serve a little soup.
Take care, everyone.